Hey everybody, welcome to episode 13 of So I've Been Told. I'm sorry that there's been such a long gap in between episodes. Real life has gotten in the way of podcast life. I have been very busy, and this week I have been very sick with this crazy stomach virus, and just haven't even had the energy to do something as simple as finish putting together this podcast until today. So anyway, my guest is Robbie Allen of Hideout. Now, Hideout is a sweet melodic hardcore band from here in Rochester. They are one of my favorite Rochester bands, so make sure you check them out. And before we go into the interview, I'm going to play Canvases by Hideout. Enjoy.
But you still fly! Though the skies are turbulent, I fly toward my refuge. I made my mistakes. All the ones black and white, but damage painted white. I will make sure the seeds are watered. I'll try to make the forest grow. And if I come back torn and tattered, will you be standing in the drought?
How's it going?
Good. How are you, man?
Good, dude.
I'm so stoked to be here.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I was, like I said earlier, you were one of the people that I thought of
Very flattering.
when I first started this because I like your band a lot, and you guys are doing really cool stuff.
Thank you.
So, how did you first get into like punk rock and hardcore?
Yeah.
What was
So
your introduction to it?
it's actually I was excited to talk about this here, mainly because there's been like a shift of identity, I guess, for me, and just in the eyes of those who are listening to Hideout and what Hideout is doing. I started off in middle school as your normal sort of struggling to find his identity sort of middle school kid. Actually, remember I bought a pair of those $50 Hot Topic pants with like the belts all over them, and I had like the awful like Mario Brothers shirt that went like down to my knees, and like you couldn't, I didn't know it was amazing.
Nice.
But
and how old are you? Just
this is me at like I'm probably like 13 at this point.
Okay. And how old are you like now?
Oh, now I'm 27.
Okay.
So I'm an old guy.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I played a lot of video games because there's nothing to do growing up in Kendall. So a dude online introduced me to a guy I used to game with who was my age, introduced me to bands like Catch-22 and Less Than Jake. And basically, I really liked ska music. I was a big, huge, awesome, cool ska kid with my checkers. It was amazing. And the reason I gravitated towards it is like this is in like the early 2000s when bands like, I don't know, like Hawthorne Heights and like Seosin and all those like emo core bands are really popular. And I wasn't that sad. I guess maybe I was that sad, but I didn't want to be. So ska was like, here's a way for you to be happy. Here's a way for you to escape from like that whole thing. And it was pretty trite. Like a lot of that was really trite stuff. I mean, somewhat. Some of that stuff has mature like lyrical content, and I still like a lot of that music. But that was my introduction to any music that had any grit to it. It wasn't like your normal mainstream stuff. And shortly after that, I discovered The Unseen. Have you ever listened to The Unseen?
I have,
yeah, dude, The Unseen is amazing. And I was like, okay, this is punk with like yelling. Like we can do this. I like told myself it was okay to like yelly punk. And then I was in FYE and I picked up a Comeback Kid record. I picked up Wake the Dead, and they used to have those like listening stations.
Yeah.
Do you remember those? Yeah. I put the headphones on my head and I listened to like the first track on Wake the Dead or yeah, that's what the album was, Wake the Dead, and I was like,
isn't the first track Wake the Dead?
No, the first track is
it's
This Is My Final Goodbye. Yeah, and that was basically, that's how I like kind of got into hardcore. And then like after that in college, it was like Have Heart, Verse, With Honor. Those are the bands that like, I really enjoy. But the thing is that where I'm at now, a lot of hardcore kids grew up with hardcore. They started with Black Flag. They started with Minor Threat. And the progression is very natural. I kind of arrived there through punk. And I have always really liked bands like Flatliners, Hot Water Music, Loved Ones, like melodic, songwritery punk stuff.
Best bands.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, some of those Midwestern bands, like my friends in Due North, like they have that sort of Americana punk sort of sound. I really like very chordal, very songwritery music. And so Hideout is my attempt to marry that way of thinking about music to hardcore music. And that's kind of like what I'm trying to do. Like whether it's working is whatever. But like the guys I play with I'm lucky enough that they like cooperate. So it's pretty cool.
Cool. So you're the main songwriter?
No, I wish I could say that and like have it go on record and feel like a cool guy. Be like, yeah, it's all me. There are tracks on the record that were definitely mostly my contribution. There are other tracks on the record I have very little to do with.
Okay.
The band's very collaborative and generally now lyrically, it's all my writing, almost exclusively, except Rainier, which is Travis's. That's all Travis. But on the whole record, all the lyrics are mine. But as far as the structures go, even the chord progressions, we bounce off each other. There is no sole force. I know some bands have like one guy that kind of does everything. That's not us at all.
Yeah.
So
I've been in both kinds, and both have their positives and negatives. Now,
go ahead.
What were you gonna say?
I was say, which one do you like more? Do you like being the guy in control, or do you like?
I wasn't the guy in control.
Gotcha.
And there's part of me that loves I love just writing my bass parts. And this was like my first band, and I was way more I was just into being in a band more than I wasn't an artist at all. I just liked being in a band, and I was really full of myself, and I liked the attention. And
aren't we all?
I just loved going nuts.
There's a narcissism involved. There's a ever-present narcissism that...
Obviously, there's some of that going on with me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have started a podcast.
Yeah, that's okay though.
So
you're allowed to be. It's totally fine.
I figure this is a good way to curb it.
Yeah.
So, or
at least you can pan it off on me. You can say I'm talking about myself, and so it's not that bad.
Yeah, I mean, I like to keep the focus on my guests. Not that I don't ever want to talk.
Yeah.
It's my podcast.
Oh yeah. So you were gonna ask me a question before I made you talk about yourself.
No, that's all right. I was just gonna go back further now. What was the first show you went to? Okay,
this is cool. So I am super close with my mother. I've always been very close to my mother. She's a wonderful woman. I didn't grow up. I have an awesome stepfather, but I didn't grow up close to any male figures, really. I was always close to my mom. Kind of learned how to be a man from my mom. So like being sensitive was always okay in my house. And that was cool. And my mom introduced me to music. Now, despite the fact that my mom was very lovey-dovey, she liked... We didn't listen to any hippie stuff. There was no like quiet anything. It was very like one of my favorite memories of my mother is I just told you before we started the podcast, I can't wake up early in the morning.
Yeah.
And my mom, she would wake me up for school. She'd put Led Zeppelin vinyl on, and the speakers were in the living room below my bedroom. I would be like 9, 10, 11 years old, and she put on like Black Dog or A Whole Lot of Love. And it would literally it would hit the resonant frequencies of like things on my desk in my room, and it would vibrate. Nice. And then she would open the door, and always without knocking. My mother would never knock. She'd open the door without knocking, and she'd jump on the bed, and she'd air guitar to like the Led Zeppelin. And so like distorted, like yucky rock and roll was always in my house. And my mom never listened to music at like a middle-aged woman's volume. It was always like I'm 15 and in my car volume. So like our house was always like shaking windows. We'd swim in the pool, and she'd put the speakers in the windows, and always rock, always Zeppelin, Stones, Aerosmith, stuff like that. So like that was how I got into music. So my mom, I was 12, and I didn't even, it wasn't even like I wanted this thing. She was like, it's time for you to go to shows. And like she took me to see Styx.
Oh,
and
wow.
Styx was the first band I'd ever heard, and like our first band I ever saw, and like I smelled weed for the first time at that show. I was like, "What is that smell?" And Mom's like, "That's weed, son. Like people smoke weed." And I was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe it, people." So that was kind of the start of the whole thing.
Word.
Yeah.
The start of your weed smoking.
No. For the record, I'm nailed to the X. No, but I'm straight edge, but not like that. Try not to be a jerk.
Word. Now, when did you? What was your first like punk show? Or and punk like broadly?
Yeah, it's broad. So like I told you, I was like a big ska kid. So my mom's plan to take me to shows and get me into rock and roll. It's like a pseudo backfired because I made her take me to Ska is Dead in 2004, which consisted of Mustard Plug, Big D and the Kids Table, and
Nice.
Big D and the Kids Table used to be like a nasty punk ska band. They used to be filthy.
Yeah.
Yep. And Catch 22 played that show, and so did Planet Smashers.
Okay.
And it was at Steel. Did you ever go to Steel?
That was way before my time. But
Okay.
I'd heard of it. Steel Music Hall?
Yeah, Steel Music Hall, yeah.
Okay.
So I'm kind of dating myself here. Because I know you just interviewed Alex, and he said he was 21 in the podcast, and I was like, God damn it, I'm old.
Yeah. Well, I'm not from here either.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, I
Got
missed
you.
out on a lot of
You're
that
an
stuff.
You're an import.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, she took me to that show, and I remember thinking, I couldn't believe how I never heard Big D and the Kids Table before, and I couldn't believe how bad they smelled. They got up on stage and they just reeked like shit. And I'm 14, and they smell, and their music was so gross, and like the trombone player, his spit valve was like leaking, and they were screaming and they were jumping around, and it was very uncomfortable. And I left the show, and I was like, that was the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. And like that was when like I started to I think you don't accept, like you don't understand why like filthy, I use that word a lot, but like dirtier music is good until you experience it in a visceral way that connects to your humanity. You know, there's something very visceral, even about like sometimes I talk with my friends about like the visual element, like when a band like all moves together, and if it's in a venue where there's a little bit of give in the floor and you can feel it, and it adds to like the pressure of hits and stuff. I really pay attention to stuff like that. So that was like my first like punk rock show, and then that was the complete. I never switched back after that. That was a permanent thing. So,
were you ever into Five Iron Frenzy?
No, Five Iron Frenzy. I think by the time I found out about them, they were too poppy.
They got weird towards the end. But they're one of my all-time favorite bands. I grew up listening to them. So, which I mean, you said you're 27 and I'm 29. Like we're right in that sweet spot where like when we were like early middle school, ska was huge. Yeah, for sure. And like the third wave like punk ska was really big in that early mid 2000s when I was first getting into music. So, and it was even more attractive, like I said, because the only other option was your like really standard like the early emo core. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way that I don't like that music. I've always really liked like Starting Line, like that emo pop punk fusion stuff. I like that stuff, but at the time I was a really sad young kid, and I wanted to not be sad. So I didn't think that the sad music was going to make me feel less sad. So I just kind of, you're like fake it until you make it. I pretended I was happy and listened to ska and like lived through it. And then I actually became like really like that. Yeah, I mean, when I think of when I was most into ska, it was middle school. Then high school, it moved more into like the punk and the pop punk, and then
more mature kind of.
Later it went the heavier. I got into more heavier music and weirder and all that. But I definitely understand like there's like this optimism that you have as like a middle schooler, and then so ska is really attractive, and then that optimism kind of
gets tempered by reality.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, what was the first band you played in, and how old were you when you started playing in bands?
This is what's great about this podcast is I have to unbury an embarrassing past.
That's what I
That's
love
what's fun about it.
Doing, and especially if you drop a name that I think I can find on the internet, I'm going to look it up, and I'm going to put a link in the show notes. So.
Oh, God. Okay. I'll still do it, though, because I think I've learned to accept it as just funny now. Actually, the minute I got out of the van, we got back from tour, and the guys all drove back to the Hideout house. I'm the only one who doesn't live in the Hideout house. And Travis put on my first band. Travis went to high school with me.
Okay.
My first band was a band called the Bovine Rebellion. How appropriate of a high school ska band name. And I was 15 years old when I started that band. I was the vocalist. I started by playing a little bit of trombone. I know where like some of the notes are. I thought I could like figure it out, but I was just a vocalist. And then I eventually learned to play guitar because the guitar player quit. So I learned. That's how I learned. I was like, oh, we have a show in 4 weeks. I don't play this instrument. I literally spent like 7 hours a day playing guitar for like a month to just learn all these like easy songs. That was my first band. Then I ended up. If I should go through my history? Yeah. So then
go through all of it.
Okay, cool. I
got nothing better to do.
I'll get. All right. I'll give like the boring. I'll gloss over the middle parts a little less. So then there was another high school band called the Peg Leg Pirate Squad, which was like a more punk ska band. That's when I was listening to like Flatliners and freaking like Stuck Lucky and like Dirty. Okay. I just saw Stuck Lucky last night, so it's like really in my mind, like really just like scratchy, throaty, like punk ska stuff. Nice. So that's what I was trying to write. That I was trying to figure out like, okay, this is cool. Like it's okay for me to do this now, and I started to get into that. And then when that band ended, is when I started to get an actual proper musical education at Finger Lakes, and that's when I started This Is a Stick Up. I actually started This Is a Stick Up like my first week at college, and it turned into that was the band that I guess I've physically traveled the furthest with. We ended up sounding like, but at the end of the band, we sounded like Comeback Kid with a trombone. We were like a fucking like straight up hardcore band, and it was really, I mean, it was definitely like a ska core band for most of its progression. Yeah. But then it became like that. And that band eventually broke up because people moved away. But that was a band where like on the Hideout tour just now, like I had people come up to me twice and be like, "Are you the guy from This Is a Stick Up?" So like I guess some people were paying attention to that. So that felt like amazing. Like I know there's two people that had This Is a Stick Up lyrics tattooed on them. And like when that happened to me, I wasn't like, hell yeah, you should tattoo my lyrics. I was like, oh my God, I'm not worthy. Like thank you so much. I can't believe anybody cares about like this fucking music I'm making. So like that was really awesome. But yeah, so Stick Up ended somewhat naturally. Happy. It wasn't a bad ending. Still friends with those guys. And I waited a couple years. I tried to force myself, I don't know why, to not kill myself with music anymore. And then it just, like an alien when the damn thing burst out of his chest or whatever. Blah! That's what music did. It was like, no, like you will burst out of my chest. Like you will not stop doing this. So I started Hideout with Travis and Cody, and Hideout was the first band I've ever been in, is the first band I've ever been in that doesn't have a brass section. Okay. But interestingly, the kids that are going to shows now, they don't know me from This Is a Stick Up. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because Hideout has gotten on larger shows, at least locally, than Stick Up ever did, just by virtue of not having a brass instrument. Even though in many ways I think a lot of the late Stick Up stuff was much heavier than Hideout. Mm-hmm. But you're a ska band if you have a horn. Even if you play jazz, you're a ska band. It's just weird. But so that's kind of where I ended up now. And it's fun. We're having fun.
Awesome. Good now, times. The first two bands you mentioned, what were those names again?
I hate you so much, but I love you. My first band was called the Bovine Rebellion. There's a MySpace somewhere. It's horribly embarrassing. If anybody who actually listens to this wants to lose faith in me entirely, please look that up on MySpace. And then
did you guys release any? That's the other thing.
Yeah. Our first album was called Still Shooting Blanks.
And that was
we sold it in school. I sold it in school out of a Buffalo Bills duffel bag. I made a bunch of CDs in my house and printed them on my printer and folded them up.
Was it a full length?
No, it was like a 5-song EP. Yeah, there's no full length for that band. And then
if anybody out there has a copy, I want it.
It's terrible. Travis will probably listen to this. I hope he doesn't listen to this. Unfortunately,
I'll make sure he does.
Now he'll find it and give it to you. And then my second band was called the Peg Leg Pirate Squad, which also put out I think one EP and then broke up. This Is a Stick Up we put out a full length called Cartography. That was how when we were on Open Hand Records, that was the record that we toured on. That was a record that we, that's the record you'd listen to if you wanted to hear what that band sounded like. Mm-hmm. That record I'm not as embarrassed of. I don't like the way we recorded it, but I guess it's part of my past. It was fun. So
how much touring did you guys do in This Is a Stick Up?
A lot. It used to be a lot easier to book tours than it is now for people who are touring now, who have to use like Facebook and other channels to conduct their operation. When we toured, we started touring in 2008 or 2007 or 2008, and we did a couple like short New England runs. And then 2009, we decided right as we graduated that it would be the best thing in the world to do the entire United States, which was awesome. And I, along with the other guys, spent several months, probably from late December, January, February, March, booking. We booked 52 shows in like 30-something states using just MySpace, exclusively MySpace. You'd search a band by genre and location and message them and be like, book me on this day. And they'd be like, I can't book you, but this guy can.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So basically that was the method that we used. And we were on the road for 2 months. And I was 20. I had just turned 20. And my mother I remember packing up my stuff, and my mom was crying her eyes out at me leaving. She was mortified that I was going to go, and I knew I had to do it. It's funny, all the songs on the record were about like me wanting to tour. So I'm playing these songs on the road. I put the record out. We get the presses 3 days before we leave, and then we just go.
Cool.
And it
was it an actual vinyl record?
No, it was a CD. It was a CD.
Okay.
Vinyl hadn't. Shows you how far back this was. Vinyl hadn't like exploded like it has now.
Yeah.
So back then, people actually still bought CDs. And when we did that tour, gas was $3.50 to $4 a gallon.
I remember those days.
Yeah, the tour cost. I think we calculated it was like over $3,000 in gas. We basically broke even. I don't know how. Like it was a miracle that we made it back.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then what year did you guys wrap that band up?
I think 2011, early 2011.
We had played together at some point in 2011.
Yeah,
with Endangered Youth, and I remember like
was that at Flying Squirrel?
It was definitely at least one show at the Squirrel.
That was Stick Up / show.
Okay,
we didn't know it at the time, but that
did
was.
You guys play with Paranoia Dance Party?
Well, so Paranoia Dance Party was on the same record label as us, and so was Best of the Worst, who played here last night. If you're listening,
and I missed that.
Listen to Best of the Worst; they're amazing. They're still playing.
They played here at Vineyard Space like 2 years ago, and they were incredible.
Yep.
And then yesterday, I was scrolling through Instagram, and it was already like 8 o'clock, and I was like, "Best of the Worst is playing tonight. Why didn't I know about this?" Yeah,
they're still some of my best friends. That Open Hand Records, like that ska core sort of group that I was a part of, those people have never left me. They're still some of my closest friends. They still get us booked. I still play with the people that remain, and they're new bands, and they're all really good musicians. But yeah, PDP was also on Paranoid Dance Party. Was on the same label. They're from Tampa. But the three bands would meet up, and we'd play a show together, and it was really cool because people knew how to play parts from each other's songs.
Yeah.
So like one band would be playing like in the middle of a song, another drummer would jump in and play the drum part instead, and vocalists would switch off, and anybody that saw the three bands play together, it was like this like cacophony of just insanity, and it was awesome. It was so much fun.
Yeah, that show that Endangered Youth had played with you guys in Paranoid Dance Party was one of the most fun shows we had played, because we always felt like we were such a weird band and didn't really fit with normal hardcore bands, and so it was really fun to play with you guys because you guys were heavy but real weird in a different way than we were, and it was a lot of fun. So
I'm glad that you remember that, because that was a fun time. Yeah, it was depressing to write that we're breaking up post, but I never have any disillusions about the longevity, or rather the fact that bands are ultimately finite, which I think is part of like, to me, that's a beautiful thing almost. Mm-hmm. Like the band that plays for too long and they're too old, and some of the sort of glory and the magic that you may have liked in that band early kind of disappears. It's cool when a band just ends and the memory is sweet. So that band kind of ended when it should have, and still love those guys. They have kids. A lot of them have kids now. I think Nick and Will have kids, and good for them. They're awesome dudes, so I'm happy for them.
At what point did you... I'm assuming you've always been straight edge.
Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah.
you've never done...
Yeah.
Drank, never smoked, never did anything.
This is fun. Travis made fun of me one time because I told him I don't really talk about being straight edge, but then I realized he goes, yes, you do talk about being straight edge all the time, and I think I think I do a little bit. I think it's something I'm excited about, and most of the anger that came with it early has left me. To say I've always been straight edge is both true and not true in that I have never done any drugs ever. I've never tried. I actually don't know what it feels like to be intoxicated, which is very different. But I felt that way before I knew the straight edge movement existed. I use straight edge today as a word to describe my beliefs or what I do very simply, but I don't do it because of the straight edge movement. The straight edge movement and the fact that hardcore is associated with it is a wonderful convenience for me, because here are some songs that sort of reflect the things I'm feeling about drugs on a daily basis, and the music is furious and fantastic, just like the punk music I grew up listening to. But the ska music I grew up in, the punk, was all about getting wasted, and so that music had nothing to do with my beliefs. And then conveniently I stumbled across like edge hardcore. But yeah, I've always been so my whole life. Cool. Yeah, I try to, as I've gotten older, I guess, trying to be like an ambassador for the sober community, in that as a kid, I was so angry about it, and it was a dominant force in my like adolescent life, like feeling like wronged about, the fact that everybody had to drink. Like I think every angsty, straight edge young kid feels that way. I was in no way unique, but now I'm trying to sort of listen to people who use, and maybe listen to why, and just live my life how it is. And if somebody sees like, oh, that guy has fun and like feels very fulfilled without needing to use drugs, if I see that and that happens, that's wonderful. But no longer is there any objective to like convert people. I'm not proselytizing. You're
not an evangelical.
Yes, exactly.
Whatever.
To be honest, at the core, I do think it'd be better if more people were, but I don't assert any sense of, and I mean this genuinely now. It's not a tongue-in-cheek comment. I really try to not feel like, oh, I'm better than anybody. I actually don't. Addiction is very close to my life and is very, very destructive in my family. So I've learned to forgive and to love despite those things, and I'm trying to. And I think successfully to do that with people in my life today. And, there's no reason that people who are sober and people who are not can't get along. And there's no reason that there has to be this hard divide. I guess sometimes I feel like straight edge hardcore, although I appreciate what they're saying, it can be a little divisive because it has this sort of attitude of it not just in its tone and its aggression, but it is very... Like, I don't know, maybe I'm repeating myself. Like, it's divisive. There's this attitude, us versus the other, which is not healthy. Like, you and I were talking about, I've talked to people here, and you and I have talked about this before, same thing with the secular community and the religious community. I, as an atheist, I have my misgivings about religion, but you and I are of different spiritual beliefs, yet we come together for this collaborative effort in the music scene. To me, what we're physically doing in the music scene is of more significance than your or my beliefs as far as those things are concerned. I try to apply that to the way that I look at drug use and stuff.
Yeah. You're the only edge member of your band, is
that
correct? Okay.
Yep, everybody else is not. And so we always joke about it, actually. Like, we were talking about how funny it'd be to print a shirt that had, like in that stereotypical, like, big font, like, Rochester straight edge, and then have, like, a hand, like, with a beer, and then have it say, like, smoke weed every day, like, on the same shirt. Like, this is just, like, really confusing, like, merch. Like, what's going on with this band? Like,
is that ever an issue or a problem?
No,
on the road or
no, the guys I'm glad it's not. None of the guys in my band are like coke heads or anything. They're all really responsible. Like, they'll not drink before we play and then have like one beer after.
Yeah.
They drink socially. None of them are like, I don't know if they smoke. Yeah, none of them. They're always respectful of the spaces that we're in. They're never trying to they're never here getting drunk in the parking lot, for example. So like, it's never there's never any friction. And also, when it comes to issues of divergence in beliefs, I don't put any of those things in the lyrics because I wouldn't write straight edge songs anyways, like I said, as I was talking about before. But if they're not straight edge or whatever, I hate that we're using that word, but if they're not sober and I'm writing a bunch of songs about how great it is to be sober, I feel like that's unfair to them because they don't have the same they don't have the same presence in terms of like their ability to write the lyrics as I do because I'm the vocalist.
Yeah.
So I know it would make me uncomfortable if I was in a band where all the songs were about partying. So like I'm not going to do that to my bandmates.
Yeah.
So I try to keep that out of the lyrics entirely. So yeah, there's really no friction. It's literally not even a topic of discussion for us.
Word. What have you guys released as Hideout?
So here we go. Here's the shameless plug portion of the interview. Yeah, we just put out Vacant Lungs. We got that's our I guess I should start at the beginning. There was our first EP called Some Seek Reprieve, which almost nobody knows about and no one's heard. It's kind of like it's almost like it's like melodic punk. It's much lighter. And then there was No Rest, and then which is an EP, and then Vacant Lungs is our first full length, and we're really excited about the fact that it's coming out on vinyl through Mutant League. We've never had a vinyl release. I've never put out a vinyl in my life. Mm-hmm. I don't even own any vinyl. I'm not gonna lie. Like a lot of the guys that are like doing interviews in here, are like, yeah, I have like 100 records. Like I collect all these records. I guess I've never been into like gear or collecting records or, even as a musician, I don't collect pedals. I don't collect guitars. I have one guitar. I have the only pedal I own is because my bandmates made me get it because they told me my clean tone was really bad. I'm very much like a plug and play kind of guy. I make noise on purpose. But yeah, so I'm still excited we're putting out vinyl though, because even though I don't personally collect vinyl, I like that in this time when music is very intangible digitally, vinyl is, I almost burped. Vinyl is like this big art space. Mm-hmm. There's a big picture on it. There's room for lyrics and pictures inside. It gives the person who likes your music something to hold on to more than a chintzy jewel case.
Yeah, and there's so much history with that format. I love it. I'm not like a huge collector either. I've got some, but dude, it's expensive.
Yeah, it's very expensive. Yeah, going to record shops. I was in a lot of record shops on tour because everybody in my band collects vinyl except me. And Spencer, our photo guy, who's amazing, who did our music video, he collects vinyl. Him and his girlfriend like vinyl. So on tour, we were in like 3 or 4 different record shops, and I don't buy anything, but I guess when I'm in the record stores, I appreciate. You can't like I said before, discount the visual component of music. So that's why I like it.
Yeah, and that's where people are actually buying music.
Yeah,
days,
it's cool.
Which is awesome.
It's not up to me to decide what people want. It's up to them. So
yeah.
And I'm just going to be happy to have that to hang on to. We should be getting them in soon. And there's pre-orders up right now. If anybody listening to this, cares or wants to help, there's if you find our Facebook Hideout NY, we've got like a pre-order link up, and they'll ship out soon. We got like hoodies and shirts on there too. I feel like a salesman right now, but
that's all right. I mean, you're allowed to
do a little bit
stuff.
of that's true. I guess where else am I going to do it? But here,
yeah. Not that like a million people are going to listen to this. I wouldn't complain if a million people listen to this.
Yeah, I feel very self-conscious. I would think like, where did I sound funny? Like, where did I talk weird? But yeah.
So what is next for you guys? You guys have any big tours planned out?
Yeah, kind of. So, okay, I shouldn't say kind of. Yes, this is a big year. We bought a van. We all bought a van. There was no moment of, are we going to do this? It's always been, yes, we're going to do this. And we got Pete, our new drummer. He's wonderful. Cody, if you're listening, I love you. But Pete was the one that wanted to tour. Cody wanted to like move on and get married to Danielle, and we love them very much. They still come to our shows and yell in my face. They're amazing. 2 of my great friends. But yeah, Pete joined the band. Immediately we bought the van. The record label thing happened right after Pete joined and after Cody had tracked Vacant Lungs with us. And then now we got the van. We just came back from a New England tour, and then we're going to go out again in a month or 2. In fact, we'd go out immediately if it wasn't for the fact that I have to take time to actually book the thing. We're going to do like another week. We might do like the Midwest. And then we're trying to get on the Fest right now. If anybody's listening to this who can get us on the Fest, that would be amazing. Our label's trying to get us on the Fest. And we're trying to get on there. And then we're going to do the whole East Coast. We're going to do like a couple of weeks later at the end of the summer. So yeah, we're going to try to be consistently touring all the time now, which is awesome because I feel like I'm wasting away. Not that I don't love the people in my life here, but that is a need for me. So the fact that we're doing it is, I feel this is like the best year I've had in a while, 2016. So, and hilariously enough, though Vacant Lungs is just coming out, I guess I may as well mention that we're significantly into our next full-length
Dude,
record.
that's awesome.
Yeah, so very little of it has anybody heard. We played one of the songs off of it at our last show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but most of it is going to be kind of kept under wraps for a while. We're writing with Pete, and Pete's very experienced, so his drumming is allowing us to do some things that we couldn't do before, and we're all there's something very cool about playing with the same people for years and the songwriting chemistry that develops, and I'm feeling very excited about the fact that these guys tolerate me and my, even in this interview, you can tell I'm very scatterbrained and very all over the place. And they tolerate that, and they tolerate my impulsiveness, and, they trust my contribution to the songwriting. I trust theirs. So now what's happening is the development is really happening. Like the forward momentum is happening, and we're trying to keep up with, I guess we're bad at like social media. We're trying to like post stuff and show people what we're doing more now. We've been pretty bad at that, but it's because we've always been so focused on our songwriting. It's like I'm always just thinking about songs, and I guess that might be a weakness for me, but just the way I look at music. So,
Word.
yeah.
Was Pete in some other Rochester bands before?
Pete.
Because I don't know him.
Yeah.
What's up, Pete? I don't really know him very well.
Yeah.
I met him when he joined your band, but he looks real familiar, and I can't place from where.
He used to be Spencer's roommate. Actually, the way that the way that he got in the band, I was on Facebook and I saw him pop up on my feed, and I was like, "Oh, he like dresses punk rocky." Wasn't he a drummer? Like I'd met him before at a house show that we played. We played a house show in Brockport. Did you? You didn't go to that?
I didn't go to that.
It was awesome. It was so fun.
Who else was on it?
There was.
Everybody else I know.
There was Exit Emergency and Survival Soundtrack. They're bands from like Iowa.
Okay.
And Storm the Bay.
Oh, word.
Yeah. So that was amazing. It was so much fun. And Pete was there, and I remembered that I had talked to him briefly that he was a drummer, and I called him. No, I messaged him, and I was like, "Don't you play drums?" He's like, "Yeah." And I called him, and I was like, "Are you any good?" I remember I literally just flat out, I was like, "Are you good?" And he's like, "Well, let me tell you about my background." He's like, "I've been playing for this long, blah, blah, blah." And he hadn't ever been in like any like bands that were, touring or doing anything crazy.
Okay.
But he said, "I'm really interested in playing with you guys because I saw you at the house show and I liked your music." And I said, "Okay." So I gave him 2 songs from No Rest to learn. And I said, "If you can learn like even one of these before like a couple weeks from now we practice, it'd be really cool." He was like, "Okay, man, I'll do what I can." So we go to his house and like we set up our gear, and it's like all awkward. Pete and I weren't friends. We didn't know each other. I knew nothing about him. I was like, "Hey, I'm in your house with my amp. Like, let's be loud." And then he's like, "Okay, let's play Genetics." And I never forget it because he just clicked into the song and he played it perfectly the first time through. And I was like, at the time to Pete, I was like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna like keep evaluating you, and we're gonna check out some other like candidates." And we had some other people that we were considering, that we were. I think that one kid, Caleb Barefoot, is his name.
Yeah, he's my roommate.
Oh, okay. He's cool as hell. I love that kid. He wanted to play with us, and I was gonna give him. I feel so bad because he was really cool. We were gonna audition him, but the audition with Pete went. He was evidently the drummer.
Word.
There was no like. He might not be right. I felt bad for not giving Caleb, but we had a show like 4 weeks later, so I needed to get Pete ready. So I kind of felt bad because that kid has always been super cool, and I think he was at the show last week. Yeah. So I felt really bad because he's really supportive. But yeah, Pete just learned the whole set in like 3 practices.
Word.
And we were like, yeah, this is feeling good. But yeah, so Pete is excited. That was his first tour he's ever been on.
That's awesome.
He's 25, and I felt so happy that we could pop that cherry for him.
So I hate this. This is such a generic question, but I always genuinely want to know. But like,
sure,
what are you listening to right now? What are you guys? What's influencing your writing? Like I said, I know. Like I like to when I can find a more creative way to ask it.
That's a good question.
But whatever.
No, why not ask that? So. It's hard for me to speak to the other guys, what they're listening to. They don't listen to the same. Every band gives you this line, like, we all listen to different stuff.
Well,
and that's why our band is so unique.
Yeah,
like, I'm
that's
not
how it is.
Yeah, we all like Defeater a lot. I can tell you that's a commonality. Pete, me, and I think Travis, we all really like Have Heart a lot. That's a band that crosses. What I'm listening to right now, so I'm really bad at finding new music. I basically don't listen to anything unless somebody's like, anything new unless someone's like, here. I'm not like I said earlier, I'm not a collector, I'm not a record seeker. But when I was on tour, it's pretty late into the game to figure out this record, but the sound guy at one of the venues between bands, he had on Supporting Cast by Propagandhi, that record.
yeah.
I haven't stopped listening to Supporting Cast for like 3 weeks, or not 3 weeks. We haven't even been home since I got back from tour. That's all. I put it on my flash drive. It's in my car. I was listening to that like on repeat. What else do I listen to regularly? I listen to the Flatliners almost every single day. They're basically my single biggest songwriting influence. My favorite band is always going to be Streetlight Manifesto, but Flatliners, I listen to them. I listen to some of the same bands kind of frequently, but let's see. Let's go through my day to day. So we'll do some Propaganda usually to start. I listened to Best of the Worst a lot yesterday. I really like the Drews record. I think everybody likes the Drews record because it's just a great record.
It's one of the best Rochester records to come out in a while.
I kind of feel, I listen to it and I kind of get mad because I'm like, those are good songs. I wish I wrote a couple of them. But those guys are great and they've been really cool to us and we're excited to, we're always playing with them and, we know them and, it's just, I'm not ever going to be, there are Rochester bands that did really well that I get bitter about and I'm like, I wish I was popular because I've been playing for a long time but you don't deserve, you're never owed anything. But yeah, no, what I mean is if Drews is doing well, which they are, I'm very happy for them because I can feel that way genuinely because I think that their music is so heartfelt and honest and genuine that I don't have to have any reservations about enjoying it or them being really popular. So I'm very happy that they're doing well. And I like that record. Let's see. I really like, it's hard to say on a day-to-day basis because I can't think of anything except Propagandhi right now. It's kind of like that. I listen to, like I said, I listen to Feeder a lot. La Dispute is a big influence for me. I recently re-downloaded their album Somewhere on the River between Vega and Altair.
Incredible record.
Oh my God, such a good record. Yeah,
it's real effing sad.
Yeah.
It's so
sad
that I've actually had to I had to put it away for a while and not listen to it.
Whatever he was going through, or whatever story, it's really depressing.
I discovered that album right after being engaged and the engagement ending. So that album cut really really deep, and
that's what that whole album's about. It's about a divorce or something. Yeah, there's a whole line about breaking the wedding vows and that.
Yeah,
and I'm sorry, man.
I mean, I could listen to it now. I'm over it.
It's
but
like a knife in the heart.
For a while, it was heavy.
Yeah,
that record's great.
That's a really good album.
Records that make you feel shit are the best.
That's the purpose of music is to sort of help guide you through your feelings, which is so cheesy and cliche, but it's true. It's I think everybody feels that way. Maybe if I go not too much longer on what I've been listening to, I listen to Flaming Tsunamis a lot. They're one of my favorite bands. They are Folly. I listen to pretty frequently, especially lately. I've been listening to a lot of Folly. But yeah, I mean, my musical diet has stayed relatively the same. I just try to find new. If you know any bands that are gritty punk bands that are melodic, that are fast, that I should listen to, you should be IMing me them, basically.
Right.
If anybody's listening to this, give me records to listen to. I am really boring.
But you don't have a turntable, so not actual records.
No. Just link me stuff or give me high quality zips of things that you think I should hear that would make me write better songs.
Did you ever? I feel like we've talked about Strike Anywhere multiple times. You're always like, I don't really listen to them, but I should.
I have a Strike Anywhere record that was sent to me by Bridge 9 in one of the merch packages I owned that's still in its shrink sitting on my desk. And every time I clean my desk, I go, oh, that's Strike Anywhere. Adam says I should listen to them. And then it's just shrink wrapped and I just always forget. And it's just sitting there looking all pretty and it's card stock and yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
So that's the next one I should do.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you like a Wilhelm scream?
I do. I love a Wilhelm scream.
Oh, okay. That's another band that I get influenced by a lot and is amazing. So I feel bad because I'm mentioning all these local bands and stuff, but like I said, it's not because I don't love you all. It's just because I'm really boring and lame, and I play video games all the time.
But you have Hideout's played. You guys are one of the bands that play here at Vineyard Space, most,
a lot.
I think you guys have played here a lot.
Yeah, which
has been awesome.
Yep, this space is one of the most important places in Rochester, and that's why we did the whole fundraiser thing. And I'm not going to take credit for that because all the kids stepped up to the plate on that one. That was a fucking huge success. I put this thing up and in 3 days they had donated $500 or $600, and I was just punk rock is alive. And that's why when people say, like, Rochester sucks, I want to move out, I'm like, you don't understand. This city actually is pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I don't share that pessimism about it.
I mean, I guess it's... And that's refreshing to hear that from you since you grew up in the Seattle area, because I think a lot of the people that grew up here don't always appreciate how rad this scene is. And I mean, I do because I'm a transplant.
Yep.
But and if I'm from the middle of nowhere, so
where?
Central Pennsylvania.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot going on. I mean, there are people that are doing really great things. Tyler from Condition Oakland.
Okay.
And Chris Castillo from The Greater Victory and Ted Hazard. Like, those dudes book a lot of shows and
do a good job.
And I'm like, it's a really cool, close knit, weird little scene down there, and I'm really proud of what they do. But I really like Rochester.
Yeah.
Legitimately, that show that you guys played here was Safe and Sound and Coming Down and Reverie from Buffalo. Maybe the best hardcore show I've been to in Rochester since I've moved here.
That's awesome. That makes me feel really happy that you feel that way.
The vibe at that show was
perfect.
It was perfect.
Oh, that band Coming Down is ridiculous. Actually, I should have mentioned that. That was exactly what I like.
All of Roy's bands
yes.
are and have been.
He was in How We Are back in the day.
Yeah.
Also, that band Reverie was right up my alley. They were awesome. Cool. I'm gonna find them.
I hadn't heard them before seeing them live. Like,
yeah.
I know Joey from. He played in a pop punk band called Impact that I booked when I was still living in Pennsylvania.
One of the guys from Reverie.
Yeah, in 2009. So I've known that guy for a long time. But,
yeah, I didn't know any of them. I met them, and me and the guitar player were talking about Ninja Turtles at the show for like an hour. So they made my A list. They were cool. Coming Down was good too. I don't like I said I'm more like punk rocky stuff. So like I don't get as much into like the really like heavy hardcore. Mm-hmm. But they were freaking awesome. I was jiving the whole time. There wasn't a bad band on that show unless you didn't like my band. And like the kids, there were so many people there. They stayed till like the end of our set. It was just. I have faith in our scene right now, and there's no like the internet can be a cesspool for this bullshit happened at this show. That's why Rochester is terrible. I see a lot of that stuff all the time, and I don't mean to be like the old guy, but like usually it's from like younger kids that they see something that's shitty, like somebody fighting at a show, and like they're right. That sucks. Why are you fighting at a show? Shows are not for fighting. I go to a show for the opposite of fighting because I'm there to feel good, and if I'm playing to express myself, if I'm not playing to listen to music I love, I'm not at work, I'm not suffering, I'm not starving to death. We're very fortunate in this country, and if you can go to shows and enjoy yourself, it's a privilege to be able to do that. And when kids fight at them, I just don't understand it. I guess I'm just not that mad at anybody, and maybe I'm not in the right place in hardcore, if I'm not like that angry. But like I said, I'm not ashamed to admit it. Growing up, it was we could talk about feelings. Mm-hmm. My mom always, you treat girls right, you love them, but you stand up for what you believe. I've always held that very true to myself. I don't bend for anybody, but I don't feel like I shouldn't be kind and sensitive. And that's getting easier as I get older. It's your life gets a lot less complicated as you mature. You know that probably. Yeah. So
I'm an old dude too.
Yeah, we're old guys. Yeah, it's cool though. But yeah, so
next year.
Oh well, we'll have a 30th party for you here.
I'm
but
into it.
Those young kids will say, that, the scene sucks because they see a bad event, and absolutely call out that this shouldn't be done, but don't feel like the whole scene is terrible because of a few bad experiences that you've had. Don't contribute to the toxicity that you perceive in your community. Try to do your best to, attend shows, support the bands you love, because I've been playing shows here for a long time, and right now is one of the better times it's been. Mm-hmm. So
the toxicity
of our city. Dude, System of a Down rules.
They do. I'm leaving that in. I'm not cutting it out either.
No, why would you?
It was maybe the best moment of the whole podcast.
I like how he goes from like a throaty to like what do you own the world? He's like very like high and he's like floaty.
Dude, the band's
they're amazing.
So good. What did you think of the newest Ninja Turtle movie?
I didn't see it yet.
Oh man,
I need to see it. Is it terrible? Isn't it very Michael Bay like CG?
It was entertaining, but they looked real weird.
To me, Ninja Turtles is like go ninja, go. But
there's not enough Vanilla Ice.
Yeah.
Too much Michael Bay, not enough Vanilla Ice.
Yeah. They are also CG'd instead of being in costumes.
Yeah, and they just
Don't they need to be in costumes?
Yeah, it was weird. Like, it was entertaining, like, it was flashy.
Yeah.
And I went and saw it by myself, which was a little weird.
Really?
Yeah.
Why didn't you? I would have went with you.
Well, I was out in Geneva.
Oh, okay.
I was helping a friend do some caretaking for her mother, who is
Oh, okay.
elderly.
But then you were like, we did the caretaking.
Well, yeah,
I
I had
need to go
all
through-
this. I was staying out there, and I had all this. I had like free time in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And I was like, what am I gonna do? So I went and saw Ninja Turtles, and it was entertaining, but it wasn't. It wasn't as good as the old stuff.
Oh, well, you can't beat the old school costumed, awesome
Yeah.
Ninja Turtles and the cheesy like '80s music.
Dude, did you ever get the cassette tape, the Ninja Turtles cassette tape?
Absolutely.
From Pizza Hut.
Oh, it wasn't from Pizza Hut. I had a video and a tape that was the Coming Out of Their Shells tour.
Yeah,
And-
I got it at Pizza Hut.
Oh, that's where you got it.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that's where I got it too. Then I don't know, but I had a VHS too.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't have that. I
The
just have the
VHS.
cassette tape, which I still own.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I could never say anything bad about that. Ninja Turtles was amazing. I had all the toys, played all the NES games. It was a good time.
Maybe I'll play a Ninja Turtle, one of
Right?
those Ninja Turtle songs on the podcast.
Dude, you should at the end. That's how it should end.
Yeah. That's
Shout out to
a
the
good
guy in Reverie with his Ninja Turtles tattoos.
I'll
He's got a sleeve of them.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
I'll play some Hideout at the beginning, and then
Yes.
then
Awesome.
do some Ninja Turtles at the end. All right, man. Well, thank you for hanging out and talking in the basement, and
No problem.
the new Hideout record. I'm sure is awesome. I haven't heard it yet,
Please.
but I'm excited to hear it.
Yeah, pre-order it. Give me your money numbers.
Yeah, I've seen you guys play a whole bunch. and
Yeah,
you guys are-
yeah. You know the songs already, but yeah.
Yeah.
For anybody who's supporting us and who does come to our shows and stuff, a lot of bands will be like, "Oh, thank you so much," and I'm sure they mean it. But I just want to reiterate that we really appreciate anybody that's paying attention. I don't say that to be a cool guy or to make you buy things from us. We don't make money. Every band that you know that you love loses money. All of them. We're not special, but we do genuinely appreciate your attention. I really appreciate the opportunity to let me do this from the bottom of my heart. So thanks, man. Seriously.
Man, no problem. This has been a lot of fun.
Awesome. Sweet.
All right. Thanks.
Yep.
Out of our shells, we're coming out of our shells. When there's music inside of you, you know that someday it's got to come through. That's why we're here and we're telling you true. We're coming out of our shells, yeah. You hear the rhythm and you're moving your feet. Ain't nothing like a song with a beat. We're coming out up from under the street. Lord, we're ready to rock. There will be no retreat. We're coming out of our shells, yeah. Out of our shells. We're coming out of our shells. We're coming out of our shells. Oh, 'cause once we got started, we knew that we scored. Learning the music and finding the chords. We just kept practicing, we stayed underground. 'Cause singing in the sewer is a wonderful sound. It's a wonderful sound. We're coming out of our shells. No, we're coming out of our shells. We're coming out of our shells. 'Cause when there's music inside of you, you know that one day it's got to come through. That's why we're here and we're telling you true. We're coming out of our shells. Lord, we're coming out of our shells. Yeah, we're coming out of our shells. Lord, we're coming out of our shells.
Yo, what do you own the world? Yo, what do you own the world? Yo, what do you own the world?